Okay, now I explain to you the fundamental reason why we must indulge in prayer. Yeah, it's quite simple. Yeah, the religious methodology, yeah, evolved out of paganism. Pagans were the first ones to practice um, the methodology that later became religion. Yeah, so the concept of prayer, they have what they call cursing. Yeah, I'm talking about this like a scientist. I'm seeing this from the point of view of a scientist. Yeah, the concept of prayer, that's what they call putting curses on people. The concept of offerings, that's what they call sacrifices. Yeah, so these are things that were rebranded. They were initially paganistic, but when you decided to do them from a different point of view, when you identified the active ingredient, because a pagan would use prayer for good, to wish harm and good health on people, would use offerings to wish harm and good health on people. But people would just concentrate on just bringing goodness to people. Those became religious. So the reason why we pray is because people will always practice sorcery, and these methodologies will always be present. When there's no religion, that's all people do. When you're competing in this world, there are always people who astral project into your mind. There's always people who are anchoring you in terms of neuro linguistic programming. There's always people who are trying to distract you and hypnotize you. Yeah, these methodologies are always there. And then there's always people who are paid to pray against you, to wish you harm. Like, and we all know that when somebody curses or prays, yeah, it does skew randomness. I've shown you in my previous videos where I could flick a coin wishing it to be heads, and it turns up tails 3 times. It means someone's praying against my aims, my wishes. Whatever I want, they want the opposite to happen. So if somebody's always praying against what I want, I have to pray to bring it back to neutral, so that the randomness is as the Almighty intended. So if you don't pray, you're going to find that your luck is skewed against you, because there's always someone doing that. There's always a competitor. Those of us who are targeted persons, there's always a competitor who hires someone, or they themselves, yeah, come curse you and pray against you, so that your luck changes and it becomes negative towards you, where I reached a point where everything I want to see, the opposite happens. Yeah, it means there's people out there who are just sitting there praying against me, yeah, and wishing me harm and ill health, because they're always doing that. I'm a person who, as a scientist, obviously, I'd rather I didn't have to pray because it's an indulgence. Um, at first glance, it looks childish, like you're a child, like you don't have any sense. But there is a scientific basis, yeah, because there's always going to be competitors who resort to being like that, asking people to sabotage you, getting people to attack you, praying against you. Yeah, you have to neutralize that, fire with fire. Yeah, so if they're using the praying method, which is cursing to them and binding, we're praying, and we use binding, but binding and cursing is kind of similar. Yes, but I don't pray like that. I don't wish harm on others. All I do is neutralize the prayer, the curse that's being put on me. I just neutralize it. Yeah, I find ways. Basically, I bring it back to neutral, because the Almighty wants things neutral. He wants randomness that is not skewed. That means it's the Almighty that's working. So I bring it back to the Almighty. If they skew it against me, that's against the will of God. If I skew it for me, it's against the will of God. Yeah, so I try to bring it back to neutral, where the Almighty wants it. So this is why we need to pray. How you pray, you just take the concepts, yeah, the aims of prayer, which is to skew randomness. Yeah, now obviously I don't know how to skew randomness, but if there's somebody who's attempting to do it, then I can use them. Yeah, if somebody has to pray has to astral project into my mind and start to try and skew everything I do to turn out to be against me, they have to concentrate real hard. So in my mind, I have to distract them as they're concentrating. That's all I do. I just distract them. If you go have somebody who's meditating, and you become a nuisance and you make noise and you make loud bangs as they concentrate, they won't be able to complete their prayer properly. That's why these people always take themselves away into seclusion to pray, where there's no one there who can make any sudden noise or sudden appearance to distract them. So when they're in my mind, I'm the noise. I just distract them. My aim is to distract, not to skew randomness, but to distract those who are doing it, so that what's left is random. Where I could win, I could lose, but it's down to the Almighty. But it's not because I'm gonna lose every time because somebody's praying against me, which is that's unnatural. But once it's neutral, then I stop, because I don't know how to force it positive, and that would be greed if I forced it into my favor. So I like to have things neutral, because when it's neutral randomness means randomness that is not skewed. Yeah, that it's not just one thing all the time, and you know it's a random process is showing you the same result all the time. Yeah, then it appears to not be random. You want it to be random so that it also allows you to see the Almighty. Yeah. So this is the reason why we pray. It's because other people will be praying against you, because competitions like that, other people will be wishing you harm, wishing you ill health, wishing you failure in the things you do, because they're jealous, envious. The other side of the human psyche, because if there's sorcerers, people offering you spells and locks that you can put on people, it means that there's a demand for it. People feel like that, and that's true. Yeah, so that's why I pray. Well, I do essentially what's equivalent to prayer, but without actually praying. Yeah, it's a form of prayer, because it's doing the same thing. Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, but it's not prayer in the traditional sense. Yeah, I showed you that video where I was sending an energy, a neutralizing energy, just to bring the Almighty's will into this world. Yeah, that's all I do, and that's why we pray. But you can't use my power. You don't have it. I don't know if you have it. If you do, the Almighty will give you a way of neutralizing things. Yeah, but I do it without greed. Yeah, so you bring karma down to neutral. That's what I do.